what is your forecast for the next for 2016?
I wish I could answer like the Canadian ambassador about the red period. Well, I'm very careful when listening at all the macroeconomic news because they shape the way Ukraine is looked from the headquarters. We always have a perception gap. You know, we are the biggest French investors in Ukraine, but a bank is not only a direct investor; it's an indirect investor. Because a lot of your money, when you invest, you prefer to place it with safe banks. And so we have a privileged role there. What I can say is I share the views of Timothy on the fact that, indeed, in 5 years, this country could be 4 times richer. Right? The question is, how do we go from now to there? At the moment, we have a lot of international help. We have many conferences, maybe a bit too many, but after all, they bring tourists as well. And I remember the first time I was in Odessa in '89. Okay. I've been following this part of the world for quite a while, since my first trip to Moscow in '73. So this gave me a bit of gray hair. In '89, remember, the Polish people were coming to Ukraine to buy food. You know, there used to be a Soviet joke, what is a Polish sandwich? It's a coupon for ham between 2 coupons for bread. See where Poland is today, see where Ukraine is. Of course, it's a lot more difficult from a post-Soviet perspective. So what is to be done? We have a lot of international help, and de facto I would argue that the more international help we have, the less the financial markets could play a role. Because you never restructure debt from the IMF, debt from the World Bank, or debt from EBRD. And the more you have help from these institutions, the less you can have money from the financial markets. We need to transform this help into maybe to launch an international investment fund for Ukraine. What do I mean? Today we have a lifeblood, and this is money from the IMF. I mean, Timothy, we may, and we need to transform this into a sort of guarantee that could be given to investors willing to take the risk to come to Ukraine. Why? Because we need new money, we need new jobs, we need new investments. You mentioned a few of them, but they're not enough. They're certainly not enough. And we need to find and to create mechanism to attract foreign investors. As I said, we have the perception gap. Each time you see Ukraine on TV, let's say it's Donetsk, it's the Crimea being cut off, it's maybe the threat from Transnistria. De facto, we look more at the black holes surrounding Ukraine than at the reality. And if we could make at least, for example, Lviv and Odessa, 2 of the most popular touristical places, that would transform the view of many people. So, in short, I'm extremely optimistic for Ukraine, but it depends on all of us. And I wish I would have the recipe for transforming this, but it's a big country, big population, next to the European Union. It's a huge potential in agriculture. Unfortunately, this year, the markets are there, we have a good crop, the prices are not so good. Steel sector depends on the price internationally, so it's not going to be very good. So all of this maybe is not very structured normally, what you get from a French person who is supposed to be very structured, but I'm a big believer in Ukraine. We are big believers because we see the incredible job that the National Bank has done in, cutting the number of banks by a third, and not being afraid to bringing down some of the most important people in the country. So it means that reforms can work, and I wish everybody could follow maybe the example of the National Bank in that. I mean, I'm not paid by the National Bank. No? I think that's enough. Thank you very much.